We'll be taking a look at the walls, ceilings, and floors for any kind of visible cracks or damage. The doors and windows will all be operated to make sure that they open and close correctly and to be checked for any kind of damage. The stairways, handrails, and guardrails will be checked for safety to make sure that the rise and run is correct. The cabinets will be checked to make sure that they're correctly installed, they're not loose, and there's no safety issues. We're going to be checking all the appliances in the kitchen to make sure that they work correctly and that we don't need to call in an appliance repair person. We're going to be taking a look to see if there are smoke alarms or if some are needed to be added. In the garage, we're going to be checking to make sure that the safety aspects of the garage door works correctly. I'm going to check the front doorbell, see if it works correctly. I'm going to check around here. This is dual pane window. It looks like it's safety glass too. There's a little safety bubble on there. I'm going to check around the door, make sure the door opens and closes correctly. Make sure the latches work well. Just give a quick visual around here. As I walk into the house, I'm just going to look visually into each room, around the ceilings, check the drywall. I'm also going to check all the outlets. In this case, it's the tile floor. I'm going to look for any kind of cracks in the tile. So every room I walk into, each room that I walk into, I'm going to check the outlets, check the windows, and check all the walls for any kind of damage. Actually, the doors, how the doors open and close can tell you a lot about the situation of the house, if the foundation has been settling, or if there's any other major structural issues. So definitely when I'm walking around the house, I'm checking very carefully to make sure the doors open and close and they seat correctly. I'm going to be checking to make sure there's nothing broken, no broken hinges. In this case, it is a closet, so I'm going to open and take a look also up in the ceilings. As I'm looking at the ceilings in the closet in every room, I'm also going to be looking for any kind of moisture that's coming through from a possible roof leak. Keeping my eyes open also on the floor. As I walk around, if there's any kind of cabinets, I'm going to be opening and closing cabinets to make sure that they work correctly. There's no kind of safety issues. I'm also going to be looking inside for any kind of water leakage. A lot of the home inspection process is just good common sense and checking every system. In this room, in the living room, I'm going to check to make sure that all the outlets are correct. Once again, I'm going to check along the ceiling to make sure the drywall looks good. Check around all the windows. This is a little bit connected to the kitchen, so I'm going to check the tile on the back side here. Do a visual look at the floor. Look at all the light fixtures to make sure they're working correctly, connected to the switches. In this case, we have an insert for a fireplace. I'm going to turn it on, make sure it works correctly. If this was a regular fireplace, I'd be checking the damper and the flue. And if it was a gas unit with a damper, I'd make sure there's a C-clamp on there so there was no safety issue with that. Once again, walking into every room, checking the outlets, checking the windows, and checking the drywall. So what I'm going to check is, first of all, I'm going to check the oven and the stove to make sure they're working. In this case, it's just a stove. I'll turn on all the gas burners. I'm going to check the cabinets to make sure the cabinets open and close correctly. And I'm going to turn on the dishwasher so the dishwasher has time to cycle through, and I'll be able to check for any kind of leaks. I'm going to look at the sink, take a look for any kind of cracks in the sink, look under the sink to make sure there's no leakage under the sink, especially from the dishwasher when it starts to cycle the water out. Then I'm going to move over to the oven, in this case a microwave, and check both of those to make sure those function correctly. And in this case there's tile, so I'm going to be checking for any kind of cracked tile and looking at the floor. Again, looking at the floor and ceiling for any kind of damage in the floor and ceiling. And once again, most rooms have windows, so I'm going to be looking at the windows as I'm walking around, keeping an eye open for any kind of broken windows or problems with the windows. Also, I'm in the garage. I'm going to be checking the ceiling, checking all the drywall, checking the fixtures in the ceiling, the light fixtures. I'll also be walking around checking any kind of electrical outlets, looking for any kind of holes in the drywall, looking also at the concrete floor, making sure there's nothing more than typical cracks. Be checking the foundation to make sure there's no major cracks in the foundation, and giving a good visual overall inspection of the garage. Also, in this case, there's a door to the outside. I'll be checking that to make sure that locks correctly and everything works correctly. The door from the garage into the house, and the first thing I'm going to check is to make sure this is a fire rated door. Typically there's a label on the inside door edge. I'm also going to check to make sure that the door closes automatically by itself. This is also another fire rating issue. I'm going to make sure that there's a proper insulation here, and this is a part of the overall general firewall here, so I'm going to check that first when I come into the garage. On the garage door, I'm going to check first of all, make sure the spring is okay up here, it's not broken. I'm going to visually check, look at all the fittings on the garage door and how it connects here to the rollers to make sure nothing's loose. Visually check it around. When I operate the garage door, I'm going to check to make sure the auto reverse is working, either auto reverse by hand, by pressure, or by these sensors. These sensors make it so when you break the line it'll go back. It's a safety issue for children. Also, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to take a look at how the garage door itself is connected to the garage door opener. Make sure that there's no loose or frayed wires in the garage door opener. And I'm going to generally operate the garage door once or twice to make sure it goes up and down correctly, doesn't make any noise, any strange noise at least, and make sure that the garage door auto reverse function works.